All right, so you may be familiar with some of these body systems. These are several of the body systems we're going to be going through. We'll stress and go over some of them more than others. We're going over E today, and you should be able to look at it and see different organs that make up the body system. So if you look closely, you may not be able to see from your seat, but if you look closely, the heart is right here, almost in the center of your chest, a little bit to the left. But that's your heart, and all these things going out everywhere else are the other organ, the other main part of the circulatory system. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. But first, let's review. I don't know if you remember on the slide, the last slide that we went through, introduction to body systems. I told you about 3 different types of tissues, cells that make up different types of tissue. So you have muscle, nerve, epithelial, and connective cells, and then you have those same tissues. You can see tissues with your naked eye if they're large enough, if there's enough cells that in that tissue. But you cannot see these cells. In general, you're not going to be able to see cells without a microscope. But a bunch of these muscle cells make up muscle tissue. A bunch of these nerve cells make up nerve tissue. All of these tissues, which are all different from each other, make up a kidney. That is an organ. We've talked about this already. That should be a review. And then the kidney with other different organs that are all working together make up the urinary system, or we're going to call it the excretory system, even though they're not exactly the same thing. We're going to call it excretory and urinary. And then that system is just one system among several that are keeping this chimpanzee alive. And this one's actually, do y'all know what a kidney does? What did you say? What does it do? It's cleaning what?
Your intestines?
No, it's actually cleaning your blood. That's where urine comes from clean blood. But we'll get there. It's one of the last ones we'll talk about. And again, here's another, this one's going from right to left. So we have a cardiac muscle cell and several muscle cells together. That tissue and other types of tissue work together to make up the heart, and the heart is just one organ in the circulatory system. And again, here's another good picture. Now, these pictures all help me understand things better. So if these pictures don't help you, that's fine, but I would suggest finding a picture that will help you. So atoms, which is way smaller than what we're going to talk about in depth, but atoms make up molecules. Large molecules together are called a macromolecule, and they make up the organelles. Now, we've talked about that. Organelles make up a cell, to tissue, to organ system, and then organism. All of those things work together. All the body systems work together to make that organism. All right, so here we go. Circulatory. What's the root word of circulatory? Circle, or a little bit longer, is to circulate. So to circulate, what is it referencing as circulating in the circulatory system? Blood. You don't have to raise your hand. Thank you, buddy. And another word, so I want you to understand the root word, circulate. The blood is circulating throughout your body. That doesn't mean the same blood cell is going from your heart to your big toe and back, to your heart to big toe and back, and to your toe, heart, to your toe. It's circulating throughout all different parts of your body. And just because you're a blood cell hanging out with your buddy on the way to the toe doesn't mean when you're heading to the, your armpit, the armpit next, that your buddy's going to be with you. It's just all the blood cells are getting circulated throughout. What is this word? Cardiovascular. Now, this is made up of 2 words. Who knows what cardio means? What do you say? You think when you're jogging, that is called a cardio workout. But what muscle are you working out with when you're doing cardio? What muscle? Nope. Yes, but no. Huh? Your heart. Your heart. Remember, we talked about in the intro section, we talked about your heart is a muscle. So this is cardio or cardiac for the heart. Vascular. Anybody have any idea what vascular means? It's the other main organ of the cardiovascular system. Yes, sir. Your veins are part of this vascular. That's one type. What is vascular? It's 2 words. It's actually it's 1 word, but we use it as 2. Yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you. It is heart and vessel. So heart is the muscle that is moving, that is pumping, that is pushing all the blood. Remember, we'll say squeezing and making the blood go. And vessels are all these tubes along. So typically vessels hold water, like my cup holds water. It is a vessel, but you can have vessels that hold other things as well. But the vessel here is going to be holding this blood. Your vessels, your blood vessels, what kind of vessels? Blood vessels are holding the blood and going throughout the body. So So that's the main part. The main two parts is cardiovascular, blood vessel. So if you're saying circulatory, you're explaining what the blood is doing. If you're saying cardiovascular, it's the same system. We're going to say it's the same system. And cardiovascular actually is telling you what are the two main organs in that system. So both of those words, both of those names kind of give you a hint on what's going on. Oh, those two, shouldn't have told you that. You know, tell me the two parts of what's in the blood. There's two things.
Oxygen.
Oxygen is in one category. Carbon dioxide is in the other category. But what are those two things? Those two things that good and bad. Excellent job. They're both. They have both good and bad things in the blood. What are the good things? Oxygen is one. What's the other one? Sugar. Oxygen and sugar. What is oxygen and sugar? Why are those important? How did you know that? Why is that something that's in the blood? Yeah, they keep the cell going. Did anybody know that process that we talked about?
Cell respiration.
Cellular respiration. Excellent job. 5,000 points to you two. Good job. Points are used for nothing, but you got 5,000 of them. So good things in the blood, oxygen and sugar. What are the bad things in the blood? You already mentioned carbon dioxide. That's kind of the opposite of oxygen. What's the other thing? And we haven't talked about this a whole lot. What is it? What do you think? Starts? Huh? Good. It starts with a U or a W, depending on what you say. What's that W? Waste. Now, waste is kind of a general term, but it's using things like dead stuff from the cells. Y'all remember that I gave you the analogy last week about a conveyor belt. If I had a conveyor belt over here by the door, going over here towards the printer, and on that conveyor belt there were milkshakes and Chick-fil-A sandwiches and pizza and steak and fries and lettuce and salads and all this different stuff, and it's coming in. As it's coming in, I'm grabbing that and I'm moving it over here and giving it to my family. I'm grabbing it and giving it to my family. I'm grabbing it and giving it to my family. And then as I'm doing that, they're producing waste, right? What do we call that waste? We can just say it's poop. Yes, fecal matter, waste, bowel movements, whatever you want to call it. But we're moving that poop and that urine over to, they're putting it in buckets. And as in between me grabbing food, I'm also putting that waste on the conveyor belt, and it's continuing on. Now, if you're downstream from me, you're probably not going to be grabbing that poop and putting it and giving it to your family. You're going to be saying, nope, I don't need that, but I do need this. I'm moving it over. What is this conveyor belt? In the words that we've already talked about, what is this conveyor belt? No. It is not the heart. There's an organ. What? It's a what? It's the blood vessels. This is the blood vessels. Your cells are pulling this good stuff off and throwing the bad stuff back. If you'll do this little picture right here. So it looks like Mr. Davis said earlier, it looks like monkey bread. I don't know if y'all ever had that. But you have all these little things. Guess what these things are? All these are cells. What is this red thing?
The blood.
It is a blood vessel. Now, every cell that is alive needs blood. Look up here. Every cell that's alive needs blood. And so as blood comes this way, and it has a ton of oxygen, a lot of oxygen on it, and these cells don't have a lot of oxygen. A lot of oxygen in the blood, not a lot in the cells. What's going to happen to that oxygen? What kind of transport happens when it goes from high to low? High concentrations to low. Diffusion or passive transport. So it's going to go from this blood into the cell. There's not actually somebody there that's moving it like I was on that conveyor belt, but it is going from high concentration to low concentration. If that cell has a ton of carbon dioxide in it, and it has to get rid of it, how is it getting rid of it? What is that process? If it can go straight through the membrane. Diffusion again, because there's a bunch of it in the cell and not very much of it in the blood. So now it's going to diffuse back into the blood. That's all that's happening. So that process we talked about that happens in the cells is what keeps you alive all the time. Breathing, getting sugar, getting sugar from your blood, all that happens at the same time. So blood contains both good substances and bad substances. The good are oxygen and nutrients. Why did I put these other body systems in parentheses? Because that's where these things come from. The oxygen comes from the respiratory system. The nutrients comes from the digestive system. Carbon dioxide is given to the respiratory system. It's taken from the respiratory system. We'll talk about these later, but I just want you to understand there are places that this blood is coming from. Blood cannot do what it needs to do without help from the other body systems. It is useless without help from the other body systems. Does the road get you stuff into your house from Walmart? No, Walmart gets you stuff, but without the road, you can't actually get it from Walmart. And there's other stuff like hormones as well. We'll talk about those later as well.